So sorry about the late arrival, folks.
Yes.
Q train does funny things, so you know how it goes. But it's great to see everybody. Thank you for coming out to Luna Park. Thank you for having us here at Luna Park. For those who don't know me, I'm Mike Morgenthau. I'm the president of the Guides Association, and we're really happy to see everybody out here. Hope everybody's having a good summer. And yeah, been 95 degrees and sunny for 6 weeks, and we get the rainy day. But that's all right. So, anyway, let's get the meeting started. So first of all, just some rules of the road. If everyone could please silence their cell phones, that would be great. Doesn't look like we're doing the badge thing, so don't worry about that. If you have a question, just raise your hand. We'll call on you. But please, when we call on you, stand up and identify yourself so that everybody knows who you are. And other than that, I think that's pretty much all we have to go through in advance. So, first item of business is approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any additions to the agenda? I have one that we're going to add at new business. It has to do with the subject of tipping. We got a request from NYCTC on some guidance for this, so we wanted to just kind of brainstorm it a little bit before we respond to them. So that'll go under new business at the end of the meeting. Any other items that anybody would like to add to the agenda? Okay, I'll take your deafening silence as a no. With that said, we'll move right along, and I'm going to call up Harvey Davidson to introduce our hosts for the evening. Harvey, take it away.
Usually we introduce the sales person that we work with, but we're going to introduce the staff, so we're going to give them credit as well. So Luna Park's group sales department comprises of a dedicated team of 5 professionals. Their expertise spans a wide range of events, including sponsorships, children's birthday party, camp buyouts, private school buyouts, and 6-figure corporate events. With over a decade of combined experience, they proudly have 2 assistant sales managers. One that we've been dealing with is Shanice Ruffin. Like you said, much like Spock, she too hails from the planet Vulcan. She began her journey at the bottom as a ride operator and have since ascended to the professional she is today. With her we have Ariel Peralta. He provides an extraordinary experience in New York's most iconic destination for fun. The sales coordinators are Tom Marsha-Chana. She is a smart, kind, courteous, and a jovial person who brings positivity, laughter, and warmth to whomever she encounters. Brandon Treble.
He is out for today.
Okay, give him the next mark. He is a dynamic salesman that turns prospects into partners. They are also excited to welcome their newest team member, Jesse Obiano. Since 2010, it has been their goal and mission to sell fun in one of the happiest places on earth. They provide lasting memories as part of the people's playground and continue to honor that tradition day in and day out. So, what do they offer planners and like-minded individuals who invest in fun? Discounted ride and meal packages, special tourism rates, exclusive rentals of the entire park, team building events, private use of their food locations, that the party room, which we're now, Luna Landing, Salt and Sizzle, and the B&B Carousel, which is further down on the boardwalk. There's a full arcade and a classic Midway games, over 50 rides and attractions, an STEM package for schools, summer fireworks on Friday nights, performance spaces, and soon educational tours. Even when the park is closed to the public, they are in the office 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. or later.
Yes, we are.
Feel free to reach them at sales@lunaparknyc.com or call us at 718-373-5862, extension 500. Our sales team.
You all plan to say anything, or you just want to say hello? You have those wonderful
I'm
introductions.
not very vocal, so I have a microphone here. If you want to use this, there you go. Just wanted to say hi, welcome, and thank you for choosing us for this year. This is a sales team, and we're happy to have you back. I think the last time you guys were here was like before Thank you.
All right, does anybody have any questions for the Luna Park staff? Not to
Yeah.
put you guys on the spot,
Yeah,
but
business cards here available.
I will come back. Oh, yeah, hold on. Sorry. Let me use my back.
I will come back with some cars, but also I have some goodies. I have some free rides for our newest attraction, Electric Eden. So if you're not using it today, obviously we're closed. We can come back before October 27th and use it then.
Great.
So I'm gonna leave some cars here on the table for everyone to grab. Take it for yourselves, take it for your family members, but that'll be free for everyone.
wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's great. Okay. Any other questions, my friends?
What's the visitation for the year usually?
Sorry, do you?
Stand up and speak loud.
How many visitors you get a year?
A lot. I mean, the number could range up to millions, right? Especially around the holidays. Like, the last holiday we just had was, what? 4th of July, that was our busiest time. Prior to that is Easter, our second most busiest, so over a million. Not just in this section, but across the park. Exactly.
I know in terms of tourism, there's anywhere from 5 to 7 million in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And, you know, that covers the ballpark, just this district, but 5 to 7 million visitors.
I have a question. Is the parachute ride ever gonna open?
Unfortunately not, no.
What's
It's
the
very
reason?
nice. It's nice right now with LED lights at night, so when you guys head home, you're gonna see that in the bright skies, big, bright LEDs, different colors. But unfortunately, it's no longer a ride operation. That ended a couple centuries ago.
Centuries?
Decades ago. Right? And so, no, we're not using that.
No, is it also a landmark?
Yes.
It is a landmark.
So that exact reason is why it can't be operational.
That's the reason.
Yes.
All right.
Good question.
Well, thank you so much for having us. We're always excited to come out to Luna Park, and I know lots of our members bring guests out here, so it's always good to connect, and hopefully we'll keep connecting with you as the summer and the early fall goes on. So thank you so much.
Before we go, I just want to extend a grand thank you all. I know you have to put in the work to get us business, so we really appreciate all that you do. And we're looking forward to hosting your groups and welcome you all. And thank you so much, okay?
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Alright. So, with that said, I think we will move on to the President's report. A little shorter this month, but just a few things, mostly updates. First of all, the ad hoc committee for the New York City 400 anniversary. We had our second Zoom meeting this past Monday, and plans are really starting to coalesce. We've divided our committee into 3 subcommittees, but all are going to interact with each other extensively, and it's not super formal. There's no chairs of the subcommittees or anything. But basically the way we've divided it down is the education subcommittee is going to focus on the programming for GANYC and for public programs. The marketing committee is going to focus on developing partnerships with under-industry stakeholders who are also developing programs for this momentous anniversary, and also coordinating with the media to get the word out, both legacy media and social media. And then there'll be a content creation subcommittee, which obviously will focus on developing items for traditional and social media to get the word out. We have some fun and exciting ideas that we kicked around, and hopefully by our September meeting, which is going to be the second week of September, although the date is not yet finalized, we'll hone in on some stuff. In case you did not see the notice or weren't at the last meeting, the big thing that we've developed is a theme, which is New York City, it all started here. And that refers not just to the Dutch beginnings of the city, but all of the amazing innovations that New York City has gifted to the world for the last 400 years. And we want that to really be the focus of our celebration. We want this to be fun. We want it to be a celebration of New York City history. And to be fair, who better than us, the experts on New York City, to really kind of be the nexus for all of these different organizations that might be planning events. So we're hoping this is really going to get us even further embedded into the tourism industry here in New York and also in the minds of the public, and really offer some fun events both for the membership and for the public at large. So stay tuned for more information, including ways that you might be able to get involved even if you're not on the committee, but that's information to be coming. Secondly, GANYC and SIDA, the Student and Youth Travel Association. Their convention is starting tomorrow at the Sheraton Times Square and is running through August 12th. In fairness, tomorrow and Friday are really just fan tours and networking events. The actual sessions begin on Saturday. We'll be well represented there as we're providing several guides to lead tours to attendees throughout the city. Bob is doing one tomorrow in Midtown, and Susan, you're doing one on Friday in the Bronx, so thank you both for that, and Harvey, thank you for helping to arrange. I was supposed to lead a tour in the Bronx on Friday as well, but it's already been rained out, so all of my people are coming on your tour, Susan. Have fun. So, 65 people? Wow. Okay, all right. See, it sounds like people are gonna be sitting on each other's laps on the bus. In addition, GANYC's going to have a table outside the main exhibition hall where we're going to invite the attendees to come and find out more about GANYC. The table will be staffed at various times by Bob, Harvey, and myself. We're also going to attend the sessions and the networking events and really try to pump up the student market's awareness of the Guides Association and what we do and all of our members. Big part of that is this one-pager program that was discussed several times. Email went out. Happy to report that 14 members have signed up to participate in this initial effort. So if you sent in your one-pager, it's going to be printed out. It's going to be collated in a couple of binders that are going to be available for the tour operators to peruse through. We will also have it available on a QR code as one big comprehensive PDF document, and hopefully it'll yield some results. This is the first time we're really trying something like this, so we'll see how it goes. If you happen to be attending on your own, I know some of you might be attending the conference on your own, stop by our table and say hello. The area we're going to be is called the Connection Corner. We originally thought it was the Correction Corner, but we found out that it was the Connection Corner. I don't know exactly where that is in the Sheraton, but it's supposedly right outside the main exhibition hall. So, and it should be a lot of fun. And the three main days are Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So that's when Bob, Harvey, and I will be there primarily. So, next, as we mentioned last month as well, we are now fully into budget season for planning our budget for the next fiscal year. Notices and instructions for submitting budgets and annual reports have gone out to all committee chairs. And if you are a committee chair and you did not receive these emails, let us know ASAP so we can send it to you again. The deadline for budget submissions is this Friday, and the deadline for annual reports is a week from Saturday. We want to have both of those available so that the board can review them at our next board meeting, which is on the 17th. Is that a real date? 19th, sorry, Monday the 19th. So, and to go along with that, I just want to mention, it's great to see all of you. Obviously, I don't know how many of you live right near in the area, but many of you probably have to journey a long way. Next month, the annual general meeting is the most important meeting to attend as a GANYC member. That is when we present the budget to you for the upcoming year. We set our dues for the upcoming year. All of the committees deliver their annual reports verbally. They will also be available in the minutes, written down. Usually the written reports are a little bit longer than the verbal reports. The committees also forecast or preview what they're planning to work on for the coming year. So without a doubt, it is the most important event, the most important membership meeting we have each and every year. So I hope all of you can make it, and any buddies you have in GANYC, please encourage them to attend as well. It is Wednesday, September 4th at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. I'm assuming not in the actual cathedral, probably in the side building, but I don't know that for sure. Last time we were there, we were in the side.
Depends what activities they have going on.
Okay, so stay tuned for that, but we will be at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. One initiative that you're probably going to hear about at the AGM, and this is the first time we're going to kind of mention it publicly. It's an idea that the board has been kicking around quite a bit the last several months, is rebranding GANYC. New logo, new taglines, new everything to kind of refresh our image. As we continue to celebrate our 50th anniversary as an association, it became apparent to the board that now's a good time to think about how GANYC is branded and whether we should kind of update how we present ourselves to the industry and to the world. We've evolved so much in the 50 years that we have been an association, and especially in the past 2 decades or so. So it seems really time for a refresh on how we present ourselves to the world, as I said. And part of that is to also make us more attractive to the tour guiding community at large to keep growing our membership. We had the Industry Relations Committee meeting last night. The question was asked, so I actually looked. We actually have 352 active members right now, which is really great. We keep growing and growing and growing, which is great, but the more members we have, the more we can do, because that means we have more revenue coming in from dues for membership. So you all, as I say, every month are the best evangelists for GANYC and what we do, so keep spreading the word. But by rebranding, and this is just starting to formulate, it's not even a timeline on when this is going to happen, but by rebranding, we hope that we can make that an even better sell to the tour guide community in New York, the tourism community in New York and beyond, and of course the general public here in New York. So we will report more on that as time moves on, but we might actually discuss it in some more detail next month. And that is pretty much everything that I had on my agenda. So before I turn it over to the next item on our agenda, I'm happy to entertain any questions from the members about the board, anything. Maria, you're back.
I'm back. How are
Great.
you?
Stand up, please.
Oh, well, hello. Some of you know me from years and years, some of you don't. I'm Maria-Lena Kern, the Danish tour guide, in case we never met officially. The one pager, since I just found out about it, is it too late to submit? I have them. Is it too late to submit? It's okay if it
Can
is.
you submit it by tomorrow morning?
I can send it like when I come home. I already have it. I have it.
Yeah. I am planning to print them all tomorrow. So
Yeah, I
if you
can.
can, I will talk to me after the meeting. I'll send you the link.
I did the Tourism Ready program 3 times
Right.
now, so
Okay.
I have. Yeah. So if I
And,
can, I appreciate it.
Yeah. So that, but you also have to pay the fee. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I can't believe it.
I'm just saying.
I know, but
I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say that.
No,
so,
I know about that. So yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So we'll get that. Do you have the email or do you?
The email? Oh yeah, it's it was on the GANYC Facebook.
Yeah.
page.
Yeah. But we'll just talk after.
Well,
the
I have
meeting.
your info
Yeah.
if
No,
anything.
absolutely. So.
I'll
So yeah,
look
that
up one
goes.
again.
If it's good for Maria, it's good for anybody else. I'm printing all the one-pagers tomorrow. So if there's anybody who's like, oh, I didn't get a chance to do it, send it to me by about 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. That is the new unofficial official deadline.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. So, okay. Anybody else? Anything else? Okay, great. Let's move along. So next we're going to call up Lisa Puccio to introduce our guest speaker. Lisa.
Nice to see you. Okay. No, I can't. Okay, can you hear me from here?
Yeah.
Okay. Many of us have had the pleasure of knowing Deborah Blau for years. For those of you who have not yet made her acquaintance, I am pleased you will have the opportunity to do so this evening. Deborah was born in New York City, but soon after, her family relocated to California, where her father worked for Paramount Studios and was the brainchild behind Bedtime for a Bonzo, which starred and a chimp named Bonzo. Deb shared this with me. She recalls her father telling her that she was Bonzo's sister because they had the same creator. Her family moved once more, this time to Nova Scotia, and although beautiful, Deborah didn't find it a particularly stimulating place to live. So she escaped to New York City, and she enrolled in the Visual School of Arts, and then went on to have a multiple-year career as an illustrator, and as the time changed, as a graphic artist in Manhattan. Then she tour guide, and I'm done with that story, okay? I just want to share that one other thing, since Deborah doesn't have a book to promote or to sell this evening, that in partnership with New York Adventure Club, like a number of our GANYC guides, Deborah presents webinars, one titled Brighton Beach, from Old New York City Resort Neighborhood to Little Odessa, and another, a footyear themed presentation called Shoes, 10,000 Years of Fashion and Function. They're both on the schedule for this coming September. So if you go to the New York Adventure Club events page, you will see the actual dates. So if you have anyone in your life that has a shoe fetish or anything like that, it might be a nice gift, you know, to buy them a ticket to sit and watch a very interesting, I've seen it, and after 5 minutes my feet were hurting. But you know, so I just wanted to throw that out there. So without any further delay, welcome Deborah.
Let's see if technology is going to be on my side. Of course not. Of course not.
Use the mic if you can.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Deb, use the mic if you can.
It did sound muffly.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try, okay? And if my voice drops, just let me know, okay? So I think most of you know and first of all, thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you for the invitation. As most of you know, I'm Deborah. Disclaimer. As Lisa explained, I didn't live in Brooklyn as a kid. I ever live in Brooklyn. I didn't go to Coney Island as a kid. I can't swim, I don't tan, and I'm terrified of amusement park rides. But as they say these days, love is love. Sometimes you can't explain it, right? So yes, welcome to Coney Island, or as the Dutch called it, Coney Island. When they were here, they discovered there were lots of rabbits, and my Dutch is limited, but Coney means rabbit. We say Coney Island because we couldn't say Coney. Should we see if this is any better? Is that any? Oh, we like that. Ooh. Ooh. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Again, give me feedback if it's unclear. It drives me crazy when I can't hear the speaker. So back in 1609, on September 6th, Henry Hudson was commanding the Half Moon, and he came to shore here in what is now Coney Island. He didn't have the greatest of visits. His right-hand man, John Coleman, was killed by an arrow to the throat thrown by a Canarsie native. So now he didn't leave any 5-star reviews. Even with the rain, we're doing better than that. A couple hundred years later, the Coney Island House opened. That marked the beginning of Coney Island's status as a seaside resort. Walt Whitman stayed there. That is, when he wasn't running naked on the beach proclaiming Homer and Shakespeare to the seagulls. And then 100 years ago, my mother, see the cute little girl? My mother, grandmother, uncle, great-aunts, and great-grandmother visited the same sandy shoreline. By the 1920s, frequent subway service had made Coney Island a day trip. So how did people get there to Coney Island? In the 19th century, some arrived by boat, and some by train. In the early days, there was no east-west transportation route to within Coney Island, or even a street until about 1890. You were supposed to use the railroad or ship that went to the section of Coney Island that you wanted to patronize. In many cases, it was the railroad that actually established the resort. They wanted customers to use their amusements, restaurants, hotels, and bathing pavilions. Profit wasn't so much in transporting the tourists to Coney Island, but in the money they spent while on excursion or extended vacation. So this particular map is 1879, and this is 1913. This is when I really need AJ, because he'll know all the subway lines, right? But this is what I give you for that information, okay? Of course, the F train is the Culver line now. And Culver Depot. Andrew Culver was one of the 3 big developers, ran an elevated line, 35 cents, which would get you here from Manhattan. And the location is now Brightwater Towers and Trump Village West. The other developers built to the east at Manhattan Beach and Brighton Beach. Those were the upper class resorts. The Culver line brought people to the middle class area west of Ocean Parkway. When the subway arrived, at Stillwell Avenue, working class people were able to reach the seaside resort for only 5 cents. This is when it got the nickname Nickel Empire. Prior to 1920, the Brooklyn Rapid Transit had charged 10 cents. hot dog, 5-cent attractions. Coney Island became heaven at the end of a subway ride. Notice the little call-out box at the bottom. The cars did 20 miles an hour, roller coasters did 60. Can you imagine? So once you got here, where would you stay? Is the sound quality okay?
Yes.
Thank you. So there was Paul Bauer's West Brighton Beach Hotel, one of the popular spots near the Culver Depot. And the term West Brighton was used to give this middle-class area some upper-class cachet. And if you could get to the beach, you could escape those sizzling New York City summers. West Brighton Beach claimed that their temperatures, although I love it, temperature, do you see the little red arrow at the bottom? Temperature would be 15 degrees cooler than New York, and of course we all know that Brooklyn was not part of the New York City at that point. Ocean breezes being a godsend. So once you got here, a great way to take care of yourself was to cool off with some ocean bathing. In the 19th century, saltwater bathing was very different than it is now. There was no such thing as lying on the beach with a towel in your skimpy bathing suit. The term bathing suit says it all. People put on special clothing and walked out into the shallows and splashed water on themselves, or perhaps ducked down and got wet. Very few were swimming, partly because it was unseemly, but mostly because most of them didn't know how to swim. Besides, a woman's swimming ensemble had so much fabric that she could barely swim even if she tried. Still, this was an improvement on previous decades. In those days, saltwater bathing had been a rather novel idea. It was an era when, at best, the closest city people got to voluntarily getting wet was the Sunday hot bath. Those that came to the beach were apprehensive of even sticking their toe into the sea, for there were those physicians that warned that, quote, sea bathing might leach away the essential salts from the body. Swimsuits were made of wool and recommended maroon and navy. Maybe if you're wild, you can go for gray. So, yeah. So here we have, I think it just did that by itself, but that's cool, thank you. Thank you, AI, or whoever changed my slide. Overton's 1883 Coney Island Directory bathing rules. I want to point out the bathing machines. Do you see that in the left panel? And so these were little shacks on wheels that you get in wearing your full street clothing, and then that would be rolled into the water where you would undress to this very revealing costume. The dress should consist essentially of two parts: a pair of pantaloons and a blouse. The latter should fit not too tightly, the sleeves fastened loosely at the wrist, and slits cut in the garment just below the armpits. A belt attached to the blouse to retain it at the waist. The pantaloons should not be buttoned too tightly to the ankles, as circulation would therefore be impeded. Men were urged to enter the water resolutely and briskly until the water reaches the waist. Quote, if you can swim 3 strokes without going under, it's a fair start, unquote. Women, however, were warned of the dangers of hysteria if they entered the surf abruptly. Surprisingly, only a small percentage drowned, given the fact that a woman's full-length woolen swimsuit must, when wet, weigh at least 15 pounds. Different times. So, with all that, there were like 3 miles of beaches where one could swim. The different neighborhoods offered space to different types of clientele. To the east, we find elegant establishments like the Brighton Beach Hotel, the Manhattan Beach Hotel, Oriental Hotel. We know Oriental, there's like a boulevard named after the hotel. I know that Gary knew that. These are the destinations for titans of the Gilded Age: Lily Langtry, Ulysses Grant, far from the hoi polloi. West Brighton was middle class, as mentioned. The far western end, which is now Seagate, was called Norton's Point. And ferry service had arrived there in the 1840s and a rail line by the 1860s. Norton's Point was named after the corrupt Tammany Hall politician known as Mike Thunderbolt Norton. The hotel, pier, and casino provided a cozy roost for generic gangsters and sleazy louts. It was the rough and tumble neighborhood where Boss Tweed hung out after he escaped from prison in 1875. The neighborhood was known for dancing, dining, drinking, and debauchery. Corruption reigned supreme. In 1865, a guy named Peter Tillieu moved his family, including his little 3-year-old son, George, to Norton's Point. At Tillieu's Tavern, you could get a beer or rent a wool flannel bathing suit. Oh, Peter's son George showed his entrepreneurial spirit at the young age of 13. When visitors came from the Midwest, having seen the exposition, 13-year-old George met them with offers of a cigar box full of beach sand or a medicine bottle filled with ocean water. 25 cents, that's a lot of money. Yeah. Entertainment. Okay. So in 1893, Tillieu and his bride honeymooned at the Chicago Columbian Exposition. They were absolutely awed by the huge 250-foot Ferris wheel, which had 36 cars. Each car could fit 60 passengers. But that big Ferris wheel had already been sold to the St. Louis Exposition. When they returned to Coney Island, George had a half-size version built. He then promoted his miniature Ferris wheel as, quote, the world's largest Ferris wheel, because, well, why not? This was Coney Island. The attraction became one of the most popular in the area. Tillieu laid out the Bowery. Some of us will remember when there really was a Bowery here. Adjacent to that area that later became Steeplechase Park, the Bowery got its name because it evoked the rowdy carnival atmosphere of the famous, infamously wild Bowery in Manhattan. This Bowery establishment that is long gone, started by an errant guitar piano player who had been sleeping on the beach, reputedly has a stint as a gay hangout in the 1940s and 50s, popular spot for matronly women in the 1960s. It also appeared in the 1979 film Warriors, destroyed in a fire in 1983. So here we see a little map of the area. It's considered Bowery with a fuchsia line around it. The establishments whose names are in white, they did not exist in 1910, but many of you will recognize the names, even though some of them are gone at this point. On the right side of that fuchsia box, you'll see Feltman's. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with Feltman's hot dogs. I'm talking to a bunch of tour guides. At age 26, as a recent immigrant from Germany, Feltman could be seen pushing a pie cart through the sand dunes of Coney Island. Sausages on buns were sold on street corners and along the waterfront. Feltman's innovation was that he made the roll the same shape as the sausages. And of course, he didn't need to supply plates. His Coney Island Red Hots sold for 10 cents. By 1900, his empire covered a full city block and consisted of 9 restaurants, a roller coaster, a carousel, a ballroom, an outdoor movie theater, a hotel, a beer garden, a bathhouse, a pavilion, a Tyrolean village, 2 enormous bars, and a maple garden. Feltman's closed in 1954. That land later on became Astro Land Park. That closed in 2008. Here you can see the relationship between the hotel I mentioned at the beginning and Feltman's hotel and all his other gear. It's all gone. All the structures of these early establishments. We can only try to imagine that lost civilization from 150 years ago. There have been 6 amusement parks here in Coney Island. The amusement parks were the Disneyland of their day. Time constraints will make it even challenging to even discuss the 3 major ones, but strap in, here we go. Okay? So Steeplechase. Steeplechase lasted 67 years, longest lived amusement park in the area. The name is a reference to the sport of horse racing. Why would an amusement park want to imitate horse racing? Well, between 1880 and 1910, Brooklyn was the center of horse racing in the United States. There were 3 racetracks: Sheepshead Bay, Brighton Beach, and Gravesend. And just cool old pictures. In steeplechase racing, the horses pursue a course that included ditches and hedges. To imitate that adrenaline-producing experience, Tillieu installed gravity-pulled mechanical horses racing over 1,000 feet of curved metal track. The double-saddled wooden horses were on wheels. Attendants were dressed as jockeys and buglers. There were also realistic touches such as hurdles and a stream bed. These are some of the features and attractions of Steeplechase Park. Here we have a close-up of one of those attractions. As was a giant wooden hoop suspended from a center pole. People tried not to slide off while four muscular men rocked it back and forth. When a girl lost her balance, she would have to reason to clutch out at her escort for support. Her ankles, maybe her limbs would show very shocking and spicy for those times. Although Tilleu's attractions were charmingly wholesome by today's standards, his playful entertainments were considered shockingly risque by conservative society types. Here's another one of those kind of things where human roulette wheel, and they would try to climb up to the center of it, but if they didn't succeed, they'd be spun off. And you'd be clambering over other human beings at a time when, people did not really do that. So you could go down the dewdrop spirals feet first, or take a blimp ride. This one was never built. Amazing amount of creativity. But all this was destroyed by a fire caused by a lit cigarette thrown in a trash can in 1907. Remember, this is George Tilleu, very optimistic guy. He wrote, "I had troubles yesterday, I don't have today. I have troubles today that I didn't have yesterday. On the site will be erected a bigger, better Steeplechase Park. Admission to the burning rooms, 10 cents. So, Tilleu had to rebuild Steeplechase Park in time for the 1908 season. The new structure had to be built of steel, glass, and concrete because the city, fearing another fire, had banned all combustible building materials. It was promoted as Steeplechase, the funny place. The trademark funny face, or Tilly with the frightening grin and its 44 teeth, 12 more than normal, set the goofy tone. But there was also beauty. The Eldorado Carousel was the centerpiece of Steeplechase Pavilion in 1912. In the 1960s, it was sold to an amusement park in Tokyo. A lot of us have looked up to Cary Grant over the years. If we were in Steeplechase Park, we'd be looking up to him on his stilts. At the Insanitarium and Blowhole Theater, visitors were guided through an area which featured jets of compressed air intended to lift skirts and blow hats off. In 1908, again, just to look at those women's legs, we were getting free shows all the time. As the ladies struggled to cover themselves, a clown would shock the male counterpart with a cattle prod. Howling laughter would ensue from the assembled mob. All this hilarity came to its end in 1964 when Marie Tilleu, George Tilleu's daughter, was ready to sell. She'd had enough. Fred Trump wanted to purchase the park to build high-rise, low-income housing. Many hoped that the park would be granted landmarks designation. That would have prevented Trump from building his project. Instead, he was unable to get the necessary zoning variances due to being blacklisted by the feds for post-war real estate profiteering. It was assumed that Steeplechase would continue to operate as an amusement park until then. But Trump didn't open it for the 1965 season. By the way, Fred Trump's 19-year-old son, Donald, was present with his father at the signing of the sales tract. Amid the ongoing efforts to landmark the park, Fred Trump threw a demolition party where people were invited to throw bricks at the stained glass funny face on the facade of Steeplechase. So, as a result of the involvement of Fred Trump, the Pavilion of Fun quickly became the Pavilion of Not So Much Fun. However, as Gary and I were discussing, cost the same amount to keep Parachute Tower up as it did to take it down, so he wasn't going to bother with that. This beloved attraction ceased operation after the sale of Steeplechase Park to Fred Trump. Little of its history, built for the 1939 World's Fair in Flushing, Queens, moved to Coney Island in 1941. And I think of Joe Spivak, and I want to contact Joe because I remember him walking around describing his experience of being yanked up in these two-seater canvas seats and then floating down. So I think of Joe, as many of us will. Like I said, I didn't have these experiences. Basically a 250-foot ad for Lifesavers candies. Okay. And then landmarked the Eiffel Tower of Brooklyn. Anybody ever heard that thing? Okay. So we go on to Dreamland. Dreamland was the shortest lived, only 7 years of elegant glory. But it was a plasterboard beauty. Like the magic tricks performed within the parks, the architecture relied more on sleight of material and facades than actual foundations and constructions. Those 7 years defined the golden age of the amusement park. During those 7 years, Dreamland and neighboring Luna Park were engaged in a battle for the entertainment dollar. So Dreamland claimed that it occupied 39 acres. In actuality, it was more like 14. It was located in the area where the aquarium now occupies. You can here see baby incubators, fighting the flames, animal shows, Midget City. We're going to talk a little bit about some of those. But I might have lied about the acreage, but it did have a huge tower of 375 feet. Just enjoy the pretty pictures. Oh. You know, you've been on the beach and you're tired and your ice cream's sticky all over you and you just feel great. Several Broadway stars actually got a cut of the popcorn and peanut sales if they agreed to walk around Dreamland. You're familiar with these terms, I'm sure. Lions and tigers and bears, oh my, well known for its animal shows. Ferrari left in 1910. Several Dreamland exhibits would be considered very politically incorrect today. Midget City was one of them. This miniature town was occupied by over 300 little people. Tom Thumb and his family lived there. It was a proportional replica of the 19th century version of Nuremberg, Germany. Villagers lived on site full-time and functioned as a community. They even had their own police and fire departments. So, Midget City? Maybe that's not your thing. What about fighting the flames? Every day, they would set a hotel on fire on a regular schedule. Firefighters then extinguished the flames, and then they would save the trapped victims. Some victims would jump from the upper floors of the blazing building to the ground, while spectators gathered on bleachers to watch. Safety was the least of their concerns. It was all about entertainment. Well, there was an unscheduled fire at Hellgate, a boat ride through the caverns of hell. In an effort to have everything operational for the Memorial Day weekend, the tinsmiths kept working past midnight. They were repairing a leak in the ride's water flume with hot tar. At about 1:30 in the morning, a cluster of lights that the men were using for illumination began to explode. Whether it was due to the heat of the hot tar or just a short circuit, the men were suddenly plunged into darkness. Someone kicked over a bucket of hot bubbling tar in the darkness, and a moment later, Hellgate was in flames. I'm sorry, went the wrong way. Some panicked and fled. Others grabbed a fire extinguisher and hose, but it was too late. The fire escaped Hellgate and began to gobble up Dreamland. Firefighters from all over Brooklyn raced to the raging fire. Park entertainers from fighting the flames tried to help. Even the Midget City firefighters tried to help extinguish the flames. Animal trainers moved the wild animals from their cages into the main arena. Naturally, the animals were nervous, but all was well until the firemen cut the electrical power and the animals were plunged into darkness. Then all hell broke loose as the frightened animals turned on each other. The trainers ran for their lives before they had time to put the animals mercifully to their deaths. 60 of Ferrari's trained wild animals would lose their lives before the night was over. That beacon tower burned like a giant birthday candle. When the park burnt down in 1911, the general manager, Samuel Gumpertz, immediately resurrected the slideshow and continued to run it through 1929, at which time he left to join the circus. He went to Marvin and Bailey. Luna Park. Wildly imaginative Middle Eastern inspired architecture gave the park its colorful minarets and glowing towers. "22 acres, and it really was 22 acres? Looks familiar, right? It was on the other side of Surf Avenue, just to clarify. So, yeah, you'd expect all those rides, but baby incubators were a carnival attraction. The technology was new, and it was deemed too radical by the medical community, but it found its home here at Coney Island for 40 years. This was one of the most popular exhibits. During those years, the baby incubators saved the lives of about 6,500 of the 8,000 children who were taken to this hatchery on the boardwalk. Thousands of medical miracles. The innovator was a German-American guy of Jewish extraction. He went by the name Martin Cooney. He was really Michael Cohen, who claimed he had a medical degree. His own daughter was one of the 6,500 preemies whose lives were saved at the incubator exhibits. Over 3/4 of the infants were actually saved. It's really kind of extraordinary. So W.C. Fields, he performed at Brighton Beach. And you'll remember it was W.C. Fields who said, "Never work with the children or animals. They'll steal the limelight every single time." Sound familiar? Yeah? Okay, so no ponies, no goats, no camels, no elephants. All of these animals and more were provided by Forepaw and Sells Circus. It was a competitor to P.T. Barnum. Forepaw, kind of a funny name for someone in the animal business. But the fate of Forepaw's famous elephant Topsy was not at all amusing. Born in Southeast Asia and imported to the United States, circuses and animal spectacles were grueling for the stars of the show, and work conditions were grim. Stories abound of abuses that seem extraordinary today, but were somehow acceptable a century ago. Topsy's downfall came as a result of that abuse. Finally snapping, when a spectator known for his drunken shenanigans burnt the tip of her trunk with a lit cigarette. Enraged, Topsy threw the man to the ground, then crushed his body with her mighty weight. Now she was a liability to the circus, and she was sold to Luna Park, where she was put to work dragging logs and pulling rides. Eventually, after firing her drunken trainer for hijinks like accidentally stabbing Topsy with a pitchfork and using the elephant to attempt to invade the local police station, Luna Park also decided they no longer had a place for Topsy. But by then, nobody else wanted her. Stuck with an elephant they no longer wanted and always in search of the next spectacle, Luna Park announced the impending execution of the, quote, man-killing elephant. To make sure that the assassination was successful, they used cyanide, laced carrots, combined with 6,000 volts of electricity, plus strangulation. They wanted to make sure. A crowd of hundreds witnessed the event. People will be familiar with the film, right? Short film Electrocuting an Elephant was released by Edison Manufacturing Company, and it shows 74 seconds of Topsy's electrocution. Edison's name on the film and in relation to the electrical company made people think that Edison had Topsy killed to prove that Tesla's alternating current was deadly. In fact, Edison had electrocuted animals more than a decade earlier during the height of the so-called, quote, war of the currents, unquote. There's no proof that Edison had anything to do with Topsy's death. But historically, elephants and Coney Island have gone together like bread and butter. Here's a promotion for a famous 31-room elephant-shaped hotel called the Elephantine Colossus. Little palm card or newspaper ad for it. The real 31-room Elephant Hotel was made of tin and wood and located at Luna Park north of Surf Avenue at 12th Street. There was a cigar store located in the front legs, and you entered through the back legs. Several body parts were used as hotel rooms. There was a museum in what would have been the elephant's left lung. The elephant's eyes contained telescopes and were open as an observatory to visitors. Its manager claimed to be able to see from the elephant's back Yellowstone Park, why not? Rio de Janeiro, of course, and Paris. Built 2 years before the Statue of Liberty, it is said to be the first artificial structure visible to immigrants arriving in the United States in those days. In later days, when it served as a brothel, quote, seeing the elephant was popular slang for having engaged the services of a prostitute. Perhaps those hot times contributed to the Elephant Hotel's decline, but it was a fire that did it in for good. The hotel was destroyed in that blaze in 1896. The conflagration of the Elephantine Colossus was so immense, it was reported that the flames could be seen from Sandy Hook. Survivors and echoes, things that have left their mark. Everybody will remember the iconic wooden Thunderbolt roller coaster. It appeared in Woody Allen's Annie Hall, 1977. That famous house had originally been the Kensington Hotel, and they decided just to build a roller coaster around it. So the old roller coaster has been reincarnated as this major new steel roller coaster. Anybody ridden that? I'm not doing that 90-foot drop. 9 seats. And it's very narrow because the owner of the Thunderbolt property would not sell more than those 35 feet. And of course, we'll remember Feltman's from the late 19th century. Feltman had this employee we all know about named Nathan Hadmarker. 1916, Nathan, encouraged by his buddies Eddie Cantor and Jimmy Durante, he decided he was going to save up some money and start his own business. He slept on the kitchen floor for a year and then he quit with $300 in savings. Feltman's Red Hots were priced at 10 cents. Nathan's cost 5 cents. The low price made people question the quality of the meat. To convince the public that the hot dogs were in fact healthy, Nathan dressed people in doctor's garb and had them stand outside eating the sausages. A lot of celebrities ate there. Feltman's closed in 1954. Nathan's now has more than 200 locations. And of course, yeah, we know all about that. So everybody will know Dino's, and you'll probably know that it's considered an eccentric Ferris wheel because 16 of its passenger cars are not fixed directly to the rim, but instead slide back and forth between the rim and the hub as the wheel rotates. You feel like you're going to fly off across the beach. This number might be out of date, but it says over 35 million rides since it was built. People know and love Dino. He's passed in 1994. He was Greek. He was the 8th of 22 kids. Dino wanted to give his wife the biggest ring anywhere. He did. Everybody can see it, and you can't lose it. A Coney Island fan says, "The Wonder Wheel is my meditation. The Cyclone is my chiropractor." It's credited with a century of screams. One of the country's few surviving wooden track roller coasters with modern building codes making it irreplaceable. 2 minutes of death-defying ride at 60 miles per hour. Imagine that again at a time when cars went 20 miles per hour. Other contemporary Coney Island coasters include Thunderbolt, Phoenix, Soaring Eagle, Steeplechase. Then there's the Coney Island Minor League Baseball team, eponymously named in honor of the famous roller coaster. And yep, they play out of MCU Park. And there's another team that frequently performs at Cyclones games. You might recognize the redhead to the left. I'm on a senior dance team. I'm waiting for a hip surgery in 2 months, but I'll be back out there. Yeah, good enough. We find the Brooklyn Wall of Remembrance just outside MCU Stadium, a moving tribute to those who made the ultimate sacrifice on September 1st, 2001. With 150 years of history, there is a lot to remember. So many stories to tell here. Here at Coney Island, USA, you'll find a museum, as well as a bar, sideshows, and a burlesque performance. Coney Island, USA was established by Dick Zigun in 1980. Dick Zigun, armed with his fine arts degree from Yale Drama School, was drawn to Coney Island. In a 2022 interview, he's quoted as saying, "There's something about the salt and the sea air that preserves the body and rots the mind, and creates the bohemian neighborhood that I fell in love with the first day I visited." I think I share that feeling. So sadly, there has been a falling out between Dick Zigun and the current management of Coney Island, USA. Things do change. We hope this is not the direction of the change. That's all I'm going to say about it. So, just 3 miles of sandy shoreline. Coney Island has seen the Canarsies hunting rabbits, Henry Hudson coming ashore, wealthy day trippers and resort goers, screaming hordes of thrill seekers and basic sun worshippers. Coney Island's many nicknames: Poor Man's Paradise, Nickel Empire, Heaven at the End of the Subway Ride, People's Riviera, Sodom by the Sea for all its naughty amusements. The names all remind us of the sounds and smells of the ocean, the beach, and the shore. Thrills, experiences, romances ignited, sunburn suffered, 6 generations of memories in fantasy, quote, cities that never existed. That no longer exist. Perhaps now you'll think of this lost city as Atlantis on the Atlantic. I know we usually do a Q&A, but if the president would allow, I prefer to do memory sharing because there are people who were actually here. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. Who would like to tell who was actually here? Because I was like sitting next to lobster pots, guys.
What?
Hi. Okay.
I grew up in Brooklyn in the 40s and the 50s. I became myself. In Wisconsin, during Coney Island during the summertime. One thing I told some people before, there was a place called Washington Baths, which was sort of a beach house type thing, where you wanted to pay admission and you go out in the summer. It was a solar pool, there was a restaurant inside that had pool courts, ping pong tables, etc. But the boardwalk was elevated, so you could go from Washington Baths onto the sand and the ocean. And what you did when you went outside, they put an indelible mark on your shoulder. So if you came back, you went under an ultraviolet light, and the man at the house would see the ultraviolet light, put a mark in, let you back in. Well, as young kids, we pitched in, the group of us, we buy 1 ticket, we'd send 1 person in to get the locker. He would put his clothes in, come out, we'd meet him on the beach, take off our shirt and our pants, our bathing suits, we'd rub our shoulders together. We'd get part of the mark on it, we'd get part of the mark on the ocean, then we'd pass in under the ultraviolet light, and then we'd see the part of the marking, let us back in, so we would enjoy the beaches of Washington Baths. The other story that I will tell is that they nearly didn't allow me to get married, because I took my wife before we were getting married on the parachute jump. And that nearly ended our relationship. Fortunately, it worked out fine, and everything to this day is flawless. So those are part of my Coney Island stories.
Thank you.
I have to say this, my mom and dad honeymooned at the famous hotel. The hotel where one of the.
The defenestration
was it?
Half Moon?
The Half Moon Hotel, yes, yeah.
Defenestration, April,
They
yes.
spent their first night there, and of course, you know the history of the hotel. And there was a famous mafioso, incident, that's part of the lore, so it was right here.
Yeah. Anybody know about the Galveston flood thing? I just was trying to cut everything down, that's for the extended version. Okay. Other memories?
My wife's grandfather was a fisherman. They were Italian. During the Second World War, they lived right over here, Coney Island. The FBI showed up and said, "You can't fish no more." So he had to make parachutes or nets for the Navy. So they grew up in Coney Island for years. Then eventually they redlined it. Redlining, they basically told them this neighborhood's changing, so they moved up to Queens. Left this neighborhood.
Thank you. Go ahead,
So-
and both of you.
So not mine, but my family's. So my mom and both of her siblings were born at Coney Island Hospital because my grandparents lived nearby. They were Irish immigrants, and there was an Irish neighborhood not far from here. And for every single one of their births, my grandfather was not allowed in the room after they were born unless he had a pastrami sandwich from Nathan's in his hand, and he didn't have one when my mom, the last of the siblings, was born. So he had to double back from the hospital to get one and come back, at which point the baby was clean, everybody was sleeping, he'd missed everything.
And Nina?
Yeah, my family, they had a bunch of bungalows underneath the railroad, the subway tracks, and my mom, that was the resort. My mom lived in the Bronx, and my great-grandmother would always try to persuade my mom's mother, and my grandfather to come to Coney Island every summer, and she'd bribe him with all kinds of foods to get this ramshackle little shack, and that's where they summered in Coney Island. You know, it was a resort. You know.
Who else?
Sorry. I can remember 1964, going from New Jersey through Staten Island to ride the Staten Island Brooklyn Ferry to go to the New York Aquarium. And it was a big thrill for my brother and I because it was my brother's first time on a ferry, but seeing all the animals at the New York Aquarium that still exists. On the way back, I was impressed by how the Verrazano Bridge wasn't open yet, but you could see it was being built. And finally, my other story, I finally did ride the Cyclone 20 years ago with an AMC singles event. And it was the first time riding in the front of the car, and it did scare me.
Alright, so after I got married, we had all these disposable cameras left over. And my brother, who lives in Italy, had a daughter, has a daughter, she's still around. So we would come at her, go to the aquarium, things like that. So my brother and I decided to go on the Cyclone, and I had a disposable camera with me, and there's signs, you know, if you're pregnant, back problems, heart problems, don't ride this ride, don't take anything out of your pockets, none of that. So of course I'm gonna take the disposable camera out of my pocket, because I figure if it flies out of my hand, it's fulfilling its destiny, right? There you go, disposable. And I got up to the top, got a picture of remain seated, and as we're going over, and then that's it. I could not hold on. No matter how many times I've been on that thing, you gotta hold on, all right? My great-grandmother rode that thing when she was young, and she died in '64. But she lost her purse because she insisted on having that in her hand, and it flew out. It fulfilled its destiny. There you go. That's it.
Two things. First of all, when I was a little boy, my father would take me to Coney Island, and we would go to the steeplechase. We'd get there early in the morning. They played the Star Spangled Banner. I liked the big slides that they had. The one ride, because I was very small at the time, I couldn't ride, was the horses that would run around the steeplechase. Finally, I'm getting to the point where I'm tall enough. My father takes me to Coney Island. And of course, they closed steeplechase. And Sarah, one thing, this must be something with pregnant women, or people who just give birth. When my wife gave birth to my son, the first thing she said was, go out to Sarge's and get me a pastrami.
Very good.
we have more?
We have time for one or two more, if
I
anybody
have
else.
one little one I'd like to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's something, okay, so, my life has been making pictures and dancing and stuff, so I had gone into the, Mermaid Parade, and I'd been working in a multimedia studio back in the 90s when we used CDs, and they came in all these different colors, and we'd get corrupted CDs because technology wasn't so great. Anybody remember? So there was like silver and gold and blue and green CDs. And so I decided to make them into scales, like fish scales. So like a Hawaiian skirt made out of these things. And so that was the bottom part, which was the interesting part. And it was the clear, like fishing line that you don't see. They overlapped and the scales. They were really cool. I did the parade. I also have experience doing swing dancing. So messed up right now. So I was in the parade and I had my skirt on and my scales are looking good. And then towards the end of the parade, I see my friends from Lindy Hop. And like, we're dancing over there. Oh God, that looks like fun, let me come. And you know, I've got this crazy skirt on. And I start, I can't, because of the hip thing. I start dancing and of course my scales are flying around and they started cutting through the fishing line and go That's my Coney Island memory.
Very good.
Well, how about a hand for Deborah? That was really great, really informative. We'll all have to tune in for the longer version.
I'd love to do a longer one.
Okay, so we are now going to turn to committee reports. One quick note about the committee reports. For the last several years, our parliamentarian, most of the time, has been Patrick Casey. Patrick is no longer on the board and doesn't come to the meetings all that regularly anymore. So we're turning that very important job over to Mr. Gary Dennis, our board member at large. So what that means for our committee chairs as you speak is you have 5 minutes to deliver your report. He's going to give you a signal when you have 1 minute left, and then he's going to give you a signal for when you need to wrap things up. So please pay attention so we can keep things moving along. Maybe if he does it really well, we'll start calling him the executioner like at the Apollo. Yes.
That's what I want.
Exactly.
Or Flavor Flav.
Or Flavor Flav, there you go. So, okay, so, and thank you, Gary, for volunteering to do that. We appreciate that. So, we are going to start with the Education Committee and Nina Mende. Nina, come on down.
I just want to again introduce all our education members because, you know, as the committee has gotten bigger and better, you know, Bob Gelber, Jeremy Wilcox, John Simlak, Lisa Puccio, Minna Sharp, Susan Birnbaum, Eileen Rourke, Mark Catapano, Sarah McGrath, I think is here, and Michaela Fagan is our board liaison. So not one person, but a whole group of people bring all these programs together, and Lisa's been holding up the fort a lot, and Jeremy, of course, and Susan and Bob, you know, it goes on. Thank you, Lisa, for arranging the guest speaker, Deborah, and for suggesting the guest speaker. And if anyone has an idea for a guest speaker, just contact the Education Committee and we'll help it along. And you get to introduce the guest speaker. So you get your little moment of fame. We're booking guest speakers in 2025. I think we have November, December kind of sewn up. But if you do have an idea, let us know. Thank you. We always thank the people who did FAM tours this past month, and thanks for the, I think this was industry relations, and because Bob's on education, it's kind of both. Loom at the Rockefeller Center, and we had a Brooklyn bike tour, which did go on with Richard Sanford and Manny Sanudo, which was, did the whole Parkway, Eastern Parkway, I think, part of it. Coming up, events coming up, Van Cortlandt House Museum, Ann McDermott and Susan Birnbaum, who's in the audience right here, helped organize it. Tour of J.P. Morgan Chase's Corporate History Gallery with Sarah McGrath, there she is. Coming up, we have, that's going to be September, Van Cortlandt Park is August 15th, September 17th. They are so, you know, booked up, but there's a waiting list. You never know. If you're on the waiting list, you may get on. October 9th, we're going to have a webinar, Busting New York Pizza Myths and Legends with Scott Wiener. And later on, he'll be talking a little bit about the webinar in the evening when we have a membership meeting.
What was the date, Nina?
That's October 9th. That's a webinar, so as many people can register as possible. And what's nice, Scott has done a lot of pizza tours in the past, and he's going to be, he's a great expert. And you can register, and what's nice is we have a digital library, and he's going to put it as a permanent fixture on the digital library. October 29th, the Bronx Nobody Knows, an urban walking guide with Bill Heinrich, the late Bill Heinrich. Okay. Yeah, right. So October 29th, yeah, just dance to that. The Bronx Nobody Knows, the Urban Walking Guide by William Heinrich, and it's going to be conducted by Helene Heinrich. Bill Heinrich passed away during COVID, and he walked all over the city. And we're really happy to have also another permanent addition to the GANYC library. So if you're an GANYC member, you can access these great programs. So if you miss the initial, debut of it, you can go to the rerun. Coming up, news on the PDP. We thank Richard Sanford for the preparedness for tour guides. And we're working on a longer idea of getting in touch with the Red Cross and having some kind of thing with GANYC members and the Red Cross. That's to be announced. And Ann McDormand is developing a PDP on how to use Viator for tour guides. So lots of things going on. Our next education meeting, which you're welcome to come to, is Wednesday, August 21st. It's on Zoom. We'll be posting it. And thank you to Ann McDermott and Beth Goff for doing this very nice tour, small business for tour guides, which is, sold out, but is going on with Baruch College. So.
And texted me, she broke her arm today.
Oh, she did. Oh, sorry to hear that. Oh boy. But anyway, that's it. If you have any questions.
Any questions for Nina?
What happened?
Oh, Ann McDermott, who is our chair of our membership committee, she broke her arm earlier today. So we will provide an update on the Facebook group when we know what is much. She's at the hospital. She's being taken care of, and we'll keep our fingers crossed for Ann.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks for letting us know, and hopefully Ann has a quick and speedy recovery. She does so much for the association. So we'll hope for Ann. All right, next up, government relations, which will be presented by Mitch Paluzek. Mitch, come on down.
Okay, so this was prepared by Patrick Casey, but I'll present it. As part of our follow-up to GANYC's meeting with the Assistant Commissioner of the New York City Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, Government Relations Committee members Jeff Ryback and Mitch Paluzek have begun rewriting the New York City Administrative Code that governs sightseeing guides. While we don't expect DCWP to accept all our recommendations without question, by taking the initial first step, GANYC hopes to be able to steer the negotiations to a useful set of rules. Suggestions from membership are welcome and should be communicated to the committee by email to governmentrelations@ganyc.org. We are also following up with the Assistant Commissioner on making the DCWP list of licensed sightseeing guides more accessible to the public. GANYC continues to seek from local TWU 100 clarification of their position on proposed City Council legislation requiring guides on the upper deck of double-decker tour buses. And that is it.
Another 3 minutes. Tell us a story about Coney Island.
I will tell you.
Yeah.
And it's not my own story, it's a friend of mine. She used to be a bank teller, and I think it was the Lincoln Savings Bank, which was at the very end of Coney Island Avenue in Brighton Beach. And she said that every summer morning, people would come in and ask to go into this, get their safe deposit box, and go into like the little cubicle, and every night they had to like clean out all the sand because they were basically basically using the safe deposit rooms as a change.
All right, thank you, Mitch. Were there any questions for the Government Relations Committee? Yep, stand up.
Yep, Andy McNeil. I'm just curious, does the website have links to what the changes are being proposed? Not necessarily from us, but what the city is currently doing?
So I don't know that. I think that there is a link that goes to the current admin code rules for the sightseeing guides, but we're like only in the very beginning stages of like what we're thinking about. But if you have suggestions, that's what.
The admin code was, I think, last updated in 1937. It says that you can't charge more than $1 per person per tour, so that shows you how out of date it truly
And the
is.
rules don't apply to you if you have your sightseeing guide before 1938.
Right. You're grandfathered in if you were a sightseeing guide before 1938. One other quick thing just to add, as Mitch mentioned, we talked to the Assistant Commissioner about bringing back the full comprehensive list of tour guides, but you can still look up who is a licensed guide and who is not. If you go to the DCWP website and it's a link that says something to the effect of business lookup or license lookup, and then you can look up by individual name. So it's not going to be a big long list that you can scan and look for your own name with a gold star if you got the right number of questions right on the test. I don't even think that's there when you type in an individual's name, but if you're curious about an individual, whether he or she is a licensed guide, that's your best bet for now, although we had a conversation with the Assistant Commissioner about the value of having the whole list in one fell swoop as a PDF on the website. So hopefully that'll be coming as well. So thank you, Mitch. Okay, so next up, Industry Relations, Bob Gilbert.
So thank you all for coming tonight. As some of you probably know, Industry Relations is the committee tasked with getting the meeting spaces every month. And we have been very, very lucky between Harvey and I and numerous other members that have worked with us, Eileen Rourke, Susan Birnbaum. We have really gotten almost the last 2 years where we've only paid twice for a space, which is pretty good, and it came at the right time. Harvey worked on getting Luna Park. We probably started 5 months ago. So these things don't happen overnight. As you probably all know by now, September we're going to be at St. John the Divine. Again, we are guests there. In October, we're going to be at the main branch of the Brooklyn Public Library. And then for November, we're going to be at Flushing Town Hall. And December, we're going to be at St. Nicholas Orthodox Greek Church and National Shrine, which was arranged by member Mel Wasserman. And all of those we are hosted at. So we're really set for this fiscal year, which ends October 31st, and we start the new year with 2 free months, which is wonderful. Starting in January, we begin the process all over again. So if any of you have any ideas for a meeting venue, either contacts or just an idea, please let us know, because we really do work on these things many, many months in advance, as far in advance as we can really find out. So, the report. July, we were at Hustling International. For those of you who were there, it was a beautiful space. Again, we were guests. And what was great was that members found out that the venue can be used for groups and all kinds of contact information, and they gave us a tour of the facility, which is one of the only Richard Morris Hunt buildings still in existence today. We have had continuing efforts to reach the Brooklyn Borough President by Harvey Davidson. Harvey met him at one event where there was a contact, and we're trying to get to Brooklyn Borough Hall. So far they haven't responded. We also will get back to the Intrepid, where Harvey met a person in charge of sales there at a meeting several months ago. Additionally, we have been in touch with Accessible Travel New York, the executive director, Lakshmi Lakshman Prasad. We're trying to convince them to become a strategic affiliation with GANYC. And as you all know already, Mike discussed cider, so I won't go into that, but GANYC will be a presence at the conference. There'll be a table giving out GANYC paraphernalia. and hopefully as many of those one-pages as you send to us to try to market us and discuss it. There'll be approximately 1,000 delegates at this conference, and we'll be there most of the time. Let's see, not hearing back from the police department. Harvey sent a request to the Commissioner of Consumer and Worker Protection for clarification on a new regulation concerning motor coach stops at public buses. Prior to that, we were known that we could stop there to discharge tourists, but there is a new regulation that states tour buses, drivers possibly, could be fined for stopping to discharge and pick up passengers. So we're waiting to get more information about this, and when we get it, we will let you know. Most of you know that GANYC was invited to Bloom and New Immersive at Rockefeller Center last month, and what was nice was they invited 50 members. Every time we try to get an inspection to a new venue, if we can't have a great deal at one time, great deal of members, we try to get at least 2 or 3, which is what happened at the new Yadro Boutique last month, where they gave us segments all day and they invited up to 90 members. We did not have 90 members attend, but it was a really interesting thing. Let's see. And my last thing really is that for the first time in a very long time, Industry Relations Committee hosted a Zoom meeting, because we haven't done one really since COVID practically. And I want to thank the new members who have joined the committee, and that would be Catherine Hill, Beth Goff, and also Vince Meehan, who joined the group. Mike is the liaison with the committee, and Susan Birnbaum and Eileen Rourke are members of the committee, and they helped me enormously try to figure out our budget for the coming year. So we will continue to try and get site inspections and continue to get, if we can, free meeting venues for the association. Thank you.
Any questions for the Industry Relations Committee? Okay, just a quick note about the thing about the tour buses at the bus stops. That was discussed between Industry Relations and Government Relations, so the Government Relations Committee is aware of it as well. We'll try to get more clarification on that and what that means, but obviously that's something to at least be aware of in the short term if you are leading bus tours. It might be a little dicey dropping off at city bus stops, but who knows? You know, supposedly they're going to be putting cameras on city buses and photographing license plates and things like that, but you know, they were also supposed to have congestion pricing by now, so who knows, right? Okay, so moving along, we have Ann down as membership.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so Jeremy Wilcox is going to present that, and then you can stay right up here for your Public
there we go.
Relations Committee report.
Easy peasy. So I don't have, I didn't, obviously because she's in the hospital, I didn't get Ann's full report, but I know that she did want me to thank all our members for coming and to sort of spotlight some of our newer members. So if you have joined GANYC in this year,
That's what she said.
Oh, okay, there we go. Thank you. So I will start. Yeah, if you have joined GANYC in this year, 2024, please stand up. Thank you so much to our newer members. You are helping us grow, and we hope you will keep coming to meetings, and let us know at membership@ganyc.org if you have any questions about that. So we did recently have a happy hour at Sojourn Social on the Upper East Side, which was organized by Tony DeSante. Thank you, Tony, for always organizing those events. And we had a lot of, future plans. There is going to be in October, this coming October, a new membership orientation. We're trying to do this at least once a year, twice a year. Did anyone go to the one we had in January, February? I forget, it was in the winter. So we do these twice a year. It's an event where we bring in new members, provisional members, and we have them ask questions, introduce them to the board and different committees, and we're trying to do a better job of integrating the newer members into the association. We know for you newbies, it can be very scary when you're amongst people who may have known each other for many years to be the new people. So we want to make clear that we are very welcoming. We want to have more of these events that are about that, and then we'll have another one in October. Our goal is also to do at least one more before the end of the fiscal year, at the end of October, another networking happy hour as well. All right, thank you.
All right, any questions for Jeremy under the flag of membership committee? Okay, so now here's Jeremy with the Public Relations
Hey, I'm
Report.
back. All right, so I'm the chair of the Public Relations Committee. So one of the things I want to do over the next 6 months is try and reintroduce people to the Public Relations Committee, because one thing I try to think is, for those of us who have been members for years, we know what all the committees are and what they do and what the different board positions are. But the newer members don't know that, so we're going to try and better introduce these things. So basically, the Public Relations Committee, we are the main public outreach for the association. We promote GANYC via social media and with press outreach. We keep also the members informed internally about different things like that. And we can always use more help with content for the GANYC website blog. This was actually discussed at the PR committee meeting on Zoom the other day of how many members probably don't even know that there is a blog on the website. Folks, there is a blog on the website. It's mostly been maintained by myself for the last few years, but any member, if you have an idea for a sort of guest blog post related to New York City tourism, could be a subject like thinking about tourism in a sort of post-pandemic world, or your experiences with different things, we're always welcome for that for the PR committee. Or things like guides and tips for those who are new to the industry. Topics like that are a good idea. On a related note, obviously, if you have ideas sort of for a nice newsletter article, Dave Gardner, so right over there, send that to him as well. We sort of have overlap in that regard as well. And also, if you have direct press contacts, not just like, we should be covered in the Wall Street Journal. If you know someone who is sort of on a beat that might cover travel and tourism, let us know. We're always looking to get our name out there and to better improve the image of tour guides in the mind of the press. So let us know about that as well. And we'll have more updates on things that over the next 6 months the committee will be working on at our AGM report next month. That's my report.
All right. Any questions for Jeremy? Lisa?
I don't have a question, but you mentioned it's on the website, and I just wanted to clarify, to let people know how to find it on the website, because someone's writing hard to write that darn thing, and people are reading it. So if you go to the website, the GANYC website, up on top, you'll see a tab that says Communications. Click on that, and then it'll bring you can, under that, you can collect, you can click on the blog and read it there, okay? So sometimes the website, since we got this connection between the website and Wild Apricot, sometimes the website doesn't seem to work as direct as other websites do. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention because that's where it is, okay?
And actually, on that note, I do also want to mention that one of the things I try to cover on the blog is if you as a GANYC member, it doesn't have to be connected to GANYC, but just you as a GANYC member have been featured in the press or written something for the press. I know, I forget how long ago this was, but Lee Hallingby wrote this great article about the Martin Luther King Jr. monument uptown, and it was a really great article for, I believe it was the West Side Rag. Yes. We covered that, so if you've been featured in the press, article does not have to mention GANYC. We'll spotlight you and your contributions to that. So, thank you. Harvey, yes.
Sorry, Harvey.
Jeremy, we have strategic affiliations with a lot of organizations, like the Bus Association, the Queens Tourism Council. They send out a newsletter periodically. Do you want me to send those to you with blogs? Because some of the information is not pertaining to what we're doing. There's a lot of things they're doing. But would you be interested in receiving?
Yeah, sure. Forward those to me, and I'll see what might be relevant to GANYC.
Nina had a question.
Yeah.
Stand up.
Yeah, Jeremy, you send out very nice, ever so often the Guys Association, colored kind of news,
Yeah.
What do you call that?
The e-newsletter, yes.
Now, are you going to continue? You said you're not because of MailChimp. What?
Yes,
What
so
do you mean
I was
by
going to
that?
go more into that at the AGM report, but worth mentioning now. So this was something that dates back to when Amada Anderson was chair many years ago. Through MailChimp, we did, at the time she was doing it at one point twice a month. And I'd been doing it quarterly, and then it became like 3 times a year. And at some point, it just wasn't going out enough. There also just wasn't enough for it. And so we did pay for the MailChimp, and it to some point became my mind, a waste of money. So I discussed it with the board, and the board agreed that we would, after this last final newsletter that just went out, would end our MailChimp account. And we'll just try and find more cost-effective ways to get GANYC out there. That's my belief, is that we absolutely can. As Bob was saying with industry relations, one thing that we're really lucky with, Bob's over there, with our volunteers, we're really good at finding free or cost-effective ways to do the things that we want to do.
And just one addition to that, Jeremy and I had this discussion. I think I mentioned it at last month's meeting, but I might not have. Kind of replacing that e-newsletter to try to make our messaging a little bit more consistent. Basically, the fourth Tuesday of each month.
Yes, Tuesday.
Yes, fourth Tuesday on each month. Jeremy's going to send out an email blast just to the membership. So the e-newsletter would go to a much larger group. It was both membership and all of our contacts we had in MailChimp, many of which were obsolete and out of date. So it's another reason why. But we know there's important information about upcoming fam tours, membership meetings, whatever. So look for that towards the end of each month, because the idea is it'll preview what's coming up in the coming month. And so if anybody has anything they would like, particularly committee chairs, but anybody has anything that they'd like to broadcast to the membership in that email, please contact Jeremy several days before the fourth Tuesday of the month. So, yes?
Will that include sending it to industry partners and strategic affiliations?
We haven't discussed that, but that's probably a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. Yeah.
Okay. Dave?
Evening, everybody. My name is Dave. I'm the editor of our newsletter guidelines. Thank you for the throw, Jeremy. The next one, though, I've been hoping to get a write-up on Susan Katz. Haven't had anything really yet, so if anybody wants to fry up a story, you know, it doesn't have to be a big encyclopedia. A page will do, page and a picture. So if anybody knows her well enough, just a couple of facts and figures story, I'd really like to put in the next one. You all know me, how to get in touch with me, so newsletter,
What's the
hoping to get one.
deadline for your next newsletter? Roughly.
Anytime now.
Yeah, actually, just to note it, for those of you who don't know, I think many of you read this online, one of our longtime members and a good friend to many of us, Susan Katz, recently passed away earlier this summer. Quite sudden and shocking. Many of us had seen her fairly recently. So, yeah, if you have a remembrance, email it to Dave. I think that would make a really great piece for the newsletter.
Let's just say 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Anything else for Jeremy? Okay, thank you so much, Jeremy. Okay, our final committee report of the evening, the 50th Anniversary Committee, Sarah Lyon.
Hello, gang. All right. So I know it's been a minute since you've heard from me. We've been cooking in the background for a little while on some ongoing projects, but there is one last event that is going to be happening in this fiscal year, sponsored by the 50th Anniversary Committee. It is going to be our now second annual-ish trivia night at the Waiver Tree at South Street Seaport. It's going to be on Wednesday, August 21st. Doors open at 6:30 p.m. with a predicted 7:15-ish. We're keeping it flexible. Start of the trivia contest itself. Registration is $20 for all, and this is open to the public, but of course, since it's a GANYC event, we are encouraging GANYC members to come. And for those who went last year and remember that we were given, there was a handicap system to help the people who were not registered GANYC guides get a little bit of a leg up. There will be no such handicap this year. Mitch, looking at you. Now, you can bring a team of 4 to 6 people of your own. You can come on your own and join a team like I did the last time that we did this. I joined a team of various friends that were all looking for people to join anyway. Now, there will be some kind of free drink promotion. We're hashing out the details now. And you will need to register in advance, but we're going to be sending out the link in a more systematic way. Check Facebook, check your emails. That's going to be coming out in the next couple of days. Our fabulous quizmasters and hosts will not be the tour father Mark Levy this year, though I want to thank him generously for being so kind as to connect us with the South Street Seaport and organize this on the back end. Our hosts this year will be fellow committee members and GANYC members, Gary Dennis and AJ Stevens. And they have been cooking up some doozies of questions. So get ready, because it's gonna be wild. Yeah, it's gonna be fantastic. That basically summarizes all of our details on the event. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, Gary, do you have a question about your own event?
I want to point out that.
Stand up, Gary.
Okay. Hi, I'm Gary. All right. I don't remember what I was going to say now. Oh yeah, it was a great contest. It's a heck of a lot of fun, and if the weather's great, it's absolutely beautiful. And I was on the winning team. Don't look at me like that, Mitch. All right, there you go.
One other thing that I should mention that just occurred to me: the waiver tree is not completely ADA accessible. There are a couple of steps and a steep ramp that you will have to use in order to get there. So be wary, be warned. Unfortunately, this is not a wheelchair accessible event, but for those who went to our recent South Street Seaport waiver tree meeting, when we had our general membership meeting there, you'll remember what that was like in terms of mobility. That's what we're looking at for this event as well.
Very good. Any other questions for Sarah? Okay, thank you, Sarah.